So, hello everybody. Welcome back to the Based on Actual Events podcast. This is actually Ben and your host, and I'm joined with Screen Crush's Ryan Arey. Ryan, how are you doing today?
Hey Ben, happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming on the show. I'm actually a big fan. I watch a lot of your videos constantly.
Oh, thanks.
So,
yeah.
So, how have things been going with work and working in the pandemic? How's that been?
Oh man. Well, I mean, it just got a little bit harder. We have an office and a studio and everything, but our lease is up now, so we had to pack everything up. So I did have a place where I could actually go and record and be in the studio, once or twice a week. But now I don't have that anymore. So it's going to be a while of just hearing my voice on the channel.
Wow. Do you have any backup plans of what you're going to be doing with that, or just?
I went ahead and recorded a bunch of intros for like the rest of WandaVision, intros and outros. But to be honest, it sounds terrible in that old studio. Like it's got the HVAC sound in the background. So if you notice, since the pandemic, our sound's been a lot better because I just use a handheld mic. I don't know, I'm pretty excited about it because like if the whole storyline in quotation marks is that I'm a guy in this video store talking to you about your favorite stuff, then eventually when I run out of footage of me in the store, I'm just gonna set it up like I've been locked out, and then I'll figure out what's after that. I'd rather not just do it from home with like some comic books in the background. No offense to the guys who do that. I'd like to like keep it kind of narratively cool and do something different.
That's cool having a little storyline to it. That's a really interesting factor with it.
Well, you know who does that and does it really well is Patrick Willems. Do you ever watch his YouTube?
No, I haven't.
Oh, he's fantastic. So he puts out a video every 2 weeks. And because it's one video every 2 weeks, he's really able to do that like narrative through line because he doesn't do videos based on, what's popular or what's hot. He literally just makes videos about whatever he wants. So one week he might do superhero movies don't need to be R-rated as a topic. And then his latest one is the history of needle drops in movies. But in between those bits, he has an ongoing story that's been happening for more than a year, where it's like little interludes with him and this evil coconut who's taken over his life. He's brilliant. Like he's just a great filmmaker. In fact, I'm talking more about Patrick's channel than I am my own. But
that's all right.
He hasn't made short films in a while, but he did a few you might have seen. If Wes Anderson directed X-Men, that was him.
Okay.
And my personal favorite he did is if Werner Herzog directed Ant-Man. It's pretty great. He got this guy to do a dead-on Herzog impression, and
that's cool.
So good. Yeah, you got to check him out.
That's awesome. That kind of leads me to the next question on making videos on content. Like, how do you determine what shows you're going to be making? Because like you obviously did Star Wars, the Marvel, the superhero stuff, but like you also did Westworld. So how do you decide like what show you're going to do the Easter eggs for or the theories for? Like, what's the?
Some of them are no-brainers because they're just huge shows.
Yeah.
If Game of Thrones was still on, I'd be doing Game of Thrones as well. I'm late to the doing a show game. We didn't do that for a long time. And the first show that I ever covered every episode of was Watchmen, which at the time it was because nothing was really out. And I was like, oh, okay, this Watchmen show is coming out. Let's check it out. And I'm obviously a huge fan of the original comic. And then the show just ended up being the best superhero media I've consumed in my lifetime. And then we just happen to be, I don't know about the only, but one of the few channels covering it. So those videos never got a lot of hits because I didn't put them out like the day of or the next day. Sometimes I would take my time. But we got requested. Like if I was late by a day, our Twitter just got bombarded by that, by asking about that. So, obviously comic book stuff is always huge. I also covered Picard, and I'm wondering, looking back, if I would have covered Picard if it came out right now.
Yeah.
Because right now I'm really, really busy. And at the time Picard came out, it was just before the pandemic. Same thing with Clone Wars. So I had a lot more time. There's shows I'd love to do every episode of, I would have loved to have done Star Trek Discovery. Even though I'm not a big Discovery fan, I just think it's a show that's interesting and it's like worth the attention. And Star Trek Lower Decks is another one I wish I would have been able to do. And did you watch The Stand, Stephen King, the adaptation?
I didn't, but like I saw a bunch of trailers and clips of it. Was that like one worth?
It was terrible. It was terrible.
Okay, okay, that's what I
So
kind
I
of got
kind
the
of,
vibe of.
yeah, it was awful. I mean, I'm a huge. I've read the book 3 times, and I've seen the original miniseries. I couldn't tell you how many times. I was offended by it. It was so bad, and I
Yeah,
wish I would have covered that just so I would have had a public forum to complain in besides Twitter.
yeah,
Um, so unfortunately, with the amount of effort that I put into the videos and the amount of research, I can't do that many.
yeah,
There's just I get spread too thin trying to do too many. I can't get to everything.
yeah. Because
What's
I've
going
been
to suck is sorry to interrupt.
no, no,
Is
no
when
worries.
the Snyder cut I think is going to come out one episode a week, or either the same day or
Yeah.
right at the same time as Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
So you're gonna have to. Are you gonna divide your efforts, or are you gonna choose one or the other?
Yeah, no, I'll divide my efforts. I mean,
Okay.
I also have 4 truly great interns
Awesome.
who are just incredible, and I don't ask too much of them because they are paid like a small stipend, but it's an
Hmm.
educational internship. So I learn a
Yeah.
lot from them. They learn a lot from me, but they really help me out with assembly of some of the Easter egg videos and stuff, and some of the long form stuff. They cut those.
Yeah. I was gonna say before is yeah, because like obviously you want to do every shows because I've been watching the Snowpiercer, the Netflix show.
Yeah,
You
I
heard of that
caught the
one?
first few episodes of that,
Yeah.
but I don't have that network. I don't have that on a streaming service. I haven't been able to watch it.
Okay. Yeah. Because I was watching it, and I was like, man, this would be really good if someone did like a deep dive into it.
Yeah,
Um.
I was very happy just after watching the pilot. Oh, good, it's not the same thing. You know, I like when
Yeah.
adaptations switch it up a little because
Hmm.
watching a whole series with the same ending would have
Yeah. It's
really been pointless. Yeah.
okay.
Yeah,
So,
but see, Snowpiercer's a show though that it wouldn't be worth it for me to cover it, no matter how
yeah.
much I loved it, because it doesn't have the following. I'll
Yeah.
give you another example. The last season of Agents of Shield, I covered one episode of that, and it just absolutely tanked. And I was like, man, I really enjoy this show, but
Hmm.
I can't justify because this isn't. I don't own Screen Crush, you know.
Yeah.
I can't justify spending my time, other people's time doing this, you know, like
Yeah.
other people's money when I could work on something else.
You have to go kind of where the popularity goes. Like it's just kind of popular, it's good, and then you know people are gonna watch, and then that's where you got to go. Other than
Yeah, unfortunately. Although sometimes, you know, like we have done videos that are more like long form specialized video essays that don't necessarily cover superhero stuff or anything that's
hmm
popular right now. And I love doing those because they're a slower burn. They never spike immediately like you'll see these WandaVision videos do. But I'll give you an example. This is maybe a little too boring and inside baseball. The
uh
WandaVision Easter egg videos have been doing phenomenal. You know, I
yes.
work my ass off to get them out the same day. They get between like 700, 800,000 hits, which is just amazing. It's great.
Hmm.
Um, but I'll do, you know, we'll do these versus videos, which will pit like a DC movie versus a Marvel movie and pick one scene that explains why, oh, this one's really good and this one's not so good. Um, and those are really slow burns. Like they'll start off just a
Hmm.
10, 20,000, but then they'll hit a million or two. And the
Yeah.
best part of that is I'm always surprised when I go back and I look and say, oh my God, this is doing great. I'm loved.
Those kind of have more like longevity to them. Like anyone can go at a point sort of and watch
Yeah,
Marvel versus DC where
they're ever.
WandaVision
Yeah.
comes out the day of.
And there's other things too that like I think will hit and just have like we have a video. It's just about I love Breaking Bad. I mean,
Hmm.
we got another Breaking Bad video we're about to put out, and I just did a video about the pink bear and the symbolism of the pink bear. Not something
Yeah.
somebody's searching for, but the magic of YouTube is that algorithm eventually is going to pick up, you know, that video and the watch time and recommend it to people more, and you know, it'll get out there a
Yeah.
little bit easier than it is now.
So making the videos that aren't just like the Easter egg videos, how much
Hmm.
like creative freedom do you have of like what videos you want to make? Is it I saw you had a theory about WandaVision. You tweeted out you had a theory and you're going to make a video about it. Can you just say like, hey, I have a theory. I'm going to make this video, or do you have to go through
Um,
somebody?
I have free reign pretty
Okay.
much. Yeah, it wasn't when I first started. It wasn't like that. Matt Singer is the editor in chief of Screen Crush, the website, and he's great. He's been a mentor to me. He's taught me a lot. He's a huge comic book fan. Like I would not. This channel would not be successful if it weren't for Matt. At not even remotely. He really held my hand through the first couple of years of doing this. But anymore, um, he just trusts me, and you know he'll give me ideas for like Easter eggs that he spots or the occasional video.
Mm-hmm.
But for the most part, he's got a website to run, and I got the YouTube channel to run, and
Yeah.
no, we don't. No one interferes from a higher up. Well, I mean, we get suggestions from like
Yeah.
my big boss, the VP of digital marketing, a terrific guy named Jared. He's a huge fan of WandaVision. So he's actually, he and his wife get together every Friday. They watch the show and they watch my video. And then he'll find theories online and like email them to me. Like, that's awesome. I'll put that in.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think that's
Yeah.
my tradition too. Is I'll watch the video on Friday, then I'll look up your video to see all the Easter eggs
Yeah.
that I missed.
I'm jealous of you guys being able to do that. My routine is I wake up at 4 a.m. Just
I was wondering
watch it
that.
and try to be awake. Yeah, it's tough. I didn't used to do that. I remember the first season of Mandalorian, I got up at like 6 a.m. I was like, oh,
Mhm.
this is not, this is fine. And then the competition, man,
Yeah.
this guy in England who does the channel Heavy Spoilers, he's a good guy, makes good videos. Um, he just started putting he's fast, and he's in
Yeah.
England, so he wakes up at 8 a.m. his time. So I was like, God, I gotta get up earlier now.
Yeah, so I watched
So,
the Mandalorian video you did about well, spoiler alert for anyone who hasn't seen, about Luke's entrance at the end.
hmm
And like
hmm
I was like, it seems like like you posted like 9 a.m., 10 a.m. or something. I was watching it before I even saw the episode. I was like, did he wake up like at 4 a.m. to watch this? I was so curious about
yeah,
how.
I did. I did. My Fridays are screwed and will be, I guess, for the foreseeable future till the summer. Was that the ending explained video?
I forget which
Yeah,
one.
I think I did two on that one. If an episode justifies an ending explained, I always try to do those because you can kind of
Yeah,
you're taking like part of what you would have done in your Easter egg video and just making it its own video,
yeah, yeah.
and putting it out. And that's what people really want, is like, that's what I love about YouTube, and to a certain extent social media, is that conversation of like, oh, I want to talk to somebody about this.
Hmm.
Like I get to be a part of that for everybody and be a focal point of it, like in the comments and everything.
Yeah,
Um, it used to be, I remember like I'd read a book and then I'd just go like Goodreads or Wikipedia and read what other people said. It must be so gratifying to just be able to do that and then go on YouTube and talk about the thing.
yeah.
And
It's so great
uh,
having that outlet.
back in the day, there used to be other websites like ain'titcool.com, and
Hmm.
where there were message boards. I think not so much anymore. I think all that conversation happens on Twitter and YouTube, and
Hmm.
I don't know, maybe Instagram. I don't know what the kids do these days. I'm just on the other. I don't know.
TikTok.
TikTok, yeah.
Yeah, I don't understand TikTok. That's
I think I would have loved TikTok when I first started doing video stuff. If you
yeah.
could have, when I was 20, put a camera in my hand and said, "Here, make comedy videos," I would have been all over that.
Well, such an easy
If I had no
editor.
other outlet. Yeah. So sorry, man. I get off on a ramble sometimes when I get to talk inside baseball about YouTube and stuff. So sorry if I
No,
took your
it's
extremely simple question and made it
no, that's
far
great.
more detailed than I wanted.
That's
Yeah.
that's what I'm looking for. It's awesome. It's a little insight to it because I'm always curious about how you make the videos so quick. And I have another little question about that. Well,
Mhm.
maybe long question, but when you make an Easter egg video, you have so much knowledge or like understanding about like all these little symbolisms or stuff or things from comics that like I just I would like I consider myself sort of like a pop culture nerdy kind of guy, but I'm like,
Mhm.
this is totally beyond me. How do you do research, or do you know all of this is off by hand, or how does that?
It's a little bit of both. So, um, I you have the luxury of knowing there's going to be a show
Mhm.
about Wanda and Vision and all that stuff. So I did read. I didn't even count. At least 100 comics before WandaVision, and some of which I'd read and I knew the history, but there's a lot of the nuances about Wanda's past and the Vision's past that I didn't know. Like their origins have changed a lot. Like they've gone back and retconned certain things. And
Mhm.
as I do that, you're obviously not going to remember every single thing you read, but I try to like highlight the things that are important. I screenshot them in my phone because I
Yeah.
read them off the Marvel app. There are a couple things I missed. Like in episode 2, they have names. They have like little magician names for each other, and I completely forgot that in the second Vision and Scarlet Witch limited series, they have two magician friends by the same name. It was an Easter egg to that. So
Okay.
even then, I still miss things. So I'll do that, and then Matt will email me little things that he saw um, for instance, like the colors of the drone in episode 4, I didn't even pick up they were the colors of Captain Marvel's suit.
Yeah.
You know, because I'll watch this and I'll keep notes, which so it's hard to keep attention on something while you're keeping notes, and then I'll rewatch it, but mostly in fast forward and freeze framing when I think there's something in the background or names on the screen.
Okay.
So I don't really, you know, I wish I could just watch it 4 or 5 times. You know, like New Rockstars is another great channel, and they do a reaction video. Then the next day they put out their Easter egg video,
Okay.
so they have a little bit more time to absorb and write and research. At the very end, I will sometimes just Google and see what other people have come up with.
Yeah.
And if I do that, I'll go add a line of dialogue and I'll say, "Hey, GameSpot found this," or on Picard, there's this brilliant Star Trek journalist named Ryan Britt, and he
Mhm.
I lifted a lot from him. I credited him in the description and in the video itself, but he's people like that are just a great resource, or Reddit. And
Yeah.
then lately Twitter, I've just been asking people on Twitter right as soon
Yeah.
as I finish the episode, did anybody find anything? And if somebody tweets something and it's something I didn't catch or I didn't know or I think it's an interesting theory, I'll shout them out. That's been really cool.
Yeah, I saw somebody tweet out the drone that they use, the 80s drone that had the Stark Industries
I did not
logo on
catch
that.
that.
Yeah.
And that I'm not even kidding, pissed me off when I I guess there was that, and there was another really easy to spot Easter egg that I missed, and I get like angry at myself for that kind of thing. Because I
Right.
also looked at it and I thought, oh, is it supposed to look like the Blackbird? Like the X-Men's play.
Yeah.
Like sometimes I go way too far instead of
Into it.
just looking for the really obvious thing that's
Yeah.
right in front of me. Yeah. Yeah.
So how did you start getting into YouTube and making videos or working with Screen Crush? Because I know you work with some other organizations as well. How did that all start or
Yeah,
come to
well,
be?
I was just a freelance video editor when I started at Town Square Media. That's the company that owns Screen Crush
Hmm.
and a bunch of other brands and radio stations and stuff. So I did a little bit for all the different brands, and I always preferred to work on Screen Crush. And then I started writing. I made one video on my own, and I didn't. I just posted it to a different YouTube channel and showed it to a work friend. He was like, "This is really good," and then he showed it to Matt at Screen Crush, and Matt said,
Hmm.
"Hey, do you want to come just do this for us?" So like that's why I always say like I wouldn't be doing this if it wasn't for Matt Singer. Um, so that's how I got into like the writing aspect of it, and then just uh, eventually, that became my full time job at the company. Um, and then just watching other people, like
Yeah.
you go back and you think like Mr. Sunday Movies is one of the first people I ever saw do Easter egg videos, or the whole video essay format. You can look back all the way back at like Red Letter Media and those
Yeah.
Crank It videos of Star Wars.
Hmm.
Everybody. I've seen so many videos that like tried to be him.
Yeah.
And kids like find their own style. Or what's that guy? It's called Cinemassacre now, but back then he was Angry Video Gamer. So I was
Oh
just
yeah.
fascinated
Yeah.
by that, like people doing commentary of like that. And then like it seemed like just in the early 2000s, the form evolved. And then you had
Hmm.
people like Lindsay Ellis, Jenny Nicholson, Pop Culture Detective, every page or every frame of painting, lessons from the screenplay, The Take. I worked at The Take for a few months. That was a great experience.
Yeah.
They used to be called Screen Prism. So there's like this golden age of film criticism, which is really great, or not criticism, really analysis, because now that we're not buying Blu-rays and DVDs anymore, I miss those extra features.
Yeah.
I used to just spend hours looking at all those, and now when you just get something on digital, it's like you're missing that. I'm putting this in and really experiencing this. It's like the difference between downloading a single or buying an album, a physical album. So I think that
Yeah.
all these YouTubers are filling that hole, and I'm just honored to be a part of that.
Yeah. It's so good. I also find there's a lot of other channels that do watch alongs. Have you seen those? Like when people will watch the movie and they'll record their dialogue from the beginning to the end, and you can like
Huh,
watch along with them.
that's cool. I haven't seen channels do that, but I've seen celebrities do that. I watched Taika Waititi's for Thor Ragnarok.
Yeah, there's a channel called Pretty Much It, and they'll do channels where they do like just segments from the movie, but they'll have audio tracks that you can buy and you can watch
Oh,
along
that's
with
cool.
them from like the beginning to the end. And I found like a couple other people have popped up and done that as well.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting form of
I
movie
would do that in a
watching.
heartbeat if I had people to watch them with. That's the kind of thing where people have tweeted a few times and said, "Oh, like, you should do something. I want to see like different YouTube channels team up like the Avengers."
Hmm.
And I'm like, "Yeah, that sounds great, but like, whose channel is the video going to go on?"
Yeah.
unless it's a three-parter, and it just like New Rockstars is huge. It wouldn't benefit them at all to share the spotlight. Even though I've been on one of their shows, like they're really gracious and super nice. But that's the kind of thing that if I could get in the room with some of these people I've just talked about and record with them, that'd be amazing.
So, as a YouTuber and a
Mhm.
content creator, is there anything you want to like expand on with like making content? Is there any like different types of videos or getting into different forms of media? Or are you happy with where you
Yeah.
are?
No, no, no. There always is. I'll tell you what I really want. What I really, really want is evergreen, like an evergreen show. Like I tried this during the pandemic to just find a format of something that where you can go back and say like make a video about Die Hard, but it's in a particular format that people are familiar with and they want to watch. And I'll throw out some examples to you. Pitch meeting on Screen Rant.
Okay.
Ryan's done a great job building that up. That started that, even though Screen Rant has millions of subscribers, the first few videos they posted only got like 10,000 hits, and it's just grown. That's like a major franchise. Honest Trailers. Wisecrack used to do a series called Earthling Cinema that migrated to its own channel, and I haven't seen anything
Yeah.
for a while from them. I think they might have shriveled on the vine. I would love to have something like that. So I was doing for a while these videos, and I really liked them, and the people I know really liked them, but they hadn't caught on. That were like an AI or a robot explains a movie.
Okay.
So yeah, they were fun. And to be honest, like I struggled with the name, the format, the
Yeah.
thumbnail, and and then like somebody commented on it. Oh, this is fine, but I wish it was just you doing it. So I did a couple that were just me, and I tried to call it overthinking it. And I'm like, I want that. I want that thing that's like funny, that's just a
Hmm.
relief to do, where we can pick like whatever we want to do, regardless of like when the movie came out. That is just something that people can enjoy. And I honestly
Yeah.
think it just would take the time to do it consistently,
Yeah.
and like I think if you do a few of those and then they catch on, uh, then again, I could probably just do one about WandaVision right now and that would catch on and then the others would catch on. So maybe I should just do
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Consistency is always key. Is keeping it, relevant in the
Yeah.
viewer's eyes.
And I also wish I could justify doing videos about just non comic book or sci-fi properties. Like
Yeah.
Network is my all-time favorite movie. I'd love to do a video about Network or Cool Hand Luke, or
Hmm.
something that's like, the Godfather Part 3 is not as bad as you think. Like little things like that.
Yeah.
But that's just to do those correctly. It takes a lot of time. It just really does. And it's hard for me to say, well, I spent 2 weeks working on this video, and it got 100,000 hits when I could have just made 5 WandaVision theory videos, which are
Yeah.
easier to consume and faster paced. Yeah.
Hmm. It's tough. It's a fine line of choosing between like a passion project and
Hmm.
yeah.
Well, I've actually got a passion project kind of that I've been working on for months off and on. I was trying to get it out before the second season of Mandalorian. It's a video that is a split screen in comparison of all the different tropes, sci-fi western that went into creating Star Wars and The Mandalorian. So I watched,
Yeah.
dozens of westerns and samurai films. And then obviously the second season of Mandalorian came out and every other episode is adding like
Yeah.
a new
Is there-
reference. So, like when I saw that Ahsoka Tano episode and I'm like, wow, that's just Kurosawa.
Yeah. That's just a
But yeah, but you know what that did? That made the Easter egg videos better because I was able
yeah.
to say, well, I've already found that clip. I could just lift that real quick and find that.
Hmm.
Yeah. So I'm hoping to finish that sometime in 2021 before the pandemic's over with. It's just taking a while.
Yeah. Hopefully soon.
Yeah. I did not think, I thought when I saw that first Super Bowl trailer, I said WandaVision is going to be my favorite show of these. I think it's incredible. I did not think it would be quite like this. I didn't think there would be this much like theory crafting and speculation that is just making it so much fun to make these
Yeah.
videos and to hear the theories. Like it's a blast.
It's
I I haven't been this excited about a mystery since The Force Awakens came out.
Yeah, it's a lot better than actually like I expected because like Maybe it was just because like when the trailers came out, I was just confused of what it was going to actually be. Because I was like, is this going to be a sitcom or an actual show?
But see,
Or
but that's what I loved about it.
yeah,
Because at this point, especially you look at Marvel Phase 1 and 2, you're like, okay, yeah, I mean they're gonna fight, and the villain's gonna be like an evil mirror of the hero, and there's gonna be a sky beam, and there's gonna be something big falling out of the sky, and we're gonna have some giggles along the way, like, and there's nothing wrong with that. But it got to the point where it was like, okay, I know what's gonna happen. And then when Captain Marvel came around, I was like, okay, I really know what's gonna happen. I really don't need to do this exact same thing. And then Marvel just says, let's do this weird thing. Let's like
yeah.
not reveal what's going on. Let's take advantage of the serialized TV format. I got in, I stirred some controversy on Twitter because I tweeted out, look, Marvel's pushing boundaries and DC's re-editing a movie nobody liked.
I want to talk about that.
Okay, let's talk about it. Yeah.
Okay. I didn't like Justice League. I didn't think it was good. And I want to know, do you think
I don't think anybody did.
No, do you think the Snyder cut is going to actually be good? Because I was talking to my friends a couple of days ago, and we were like, okay, as Snyder trailer came out, everyone's really hyped about it. Everyone's been praising it way more than the previous cut, but at the end of the day, it's just a re-release of another movie. How much better can it get? And I want to know your opinion. Do you think it's going to actually be good? Because I think it just might be mediocre.
I don't think it's going to be good. No, I mean, I'm beyond the moon thrilled that Zack Snyder's getting to do it, and I didn't realize he wasn't taking any money for it, and I'm glad because Warner Brothers did him dirty in about the worst way you can be done dirty. Like it's sickening. I've lost people. Like he lost his daughter, who took their own life, and it's just so gut wrenching. I couldn't even imagine losing a child that way. And he and his wife just seem like great people. I've interviews with them and stuff. That being said, is Zack Snyder a comic book fan, or has he just read some comics?
Yeah.
Because I think he just fundamentally, I think he went to these characters and said, okay, I want to do a spin on these. I want to do a new idea based on these. And I think that when you're adapting a character, I like to see it a little bit different, but like you have to stay true to the character himself. So like, Batman has a no kill rule. I'm sorry, he just does. And Zack Snyder in this like panel said, "You're saying," I'm going to paraphrase, but he said, "You're trying to tell me Batman doesn't kill? I don't know what fucking world you're living in." And I'm like, "Well, I live in a world full of crime and poverty and terrorism. Batman doesn't. Batman lives in a different world. And Batman doesn't kill simply for the same reason that Gandalf told Frodo not to kill, because there are many who would take life, and who are you to decide?" He never wants anyone to go through what he went through. He's on the side of justice, not revenge. That is a fundamental tenet of Batman's character and has been since the early 1940s. So there's that. And then I actually didn't mind him telling a long form arc with Superman, where Superman doesn't start off as Superman. But that's not new. Superman 78 did that. In the first in the second sequence of that movie, where it's Clark in Smallville, he's angry that he can't be himself. He wants to be the high school quarterback. It takes his father dying to teach him a lesson of responsibility and worthiness. I just don't think he understood what made me love those characters. He found something of his own inside of them. That being said, when you look at Justice League, everybody I know was against Justice League and Batman versus Superman for the same reason, because we saw that it was a money grab by Warner Brothers. Instead of following the Marvel model and introducing the characters one at a time, they wanted to rush there. They wanted that 2017 release date. And it's funny to look back at it now and go, well, it's 2021. They could have introduced all those movies and characters and had Justice League this year. They could have just done it. They could, it wouldn't have mattered. But they were working on this AT&T merger, and they wanted to make sure they got their bonuses in and made the big profit to make the company worth more. And I hate that kind of stuff. I hate when you can see the strings being pulled. It's like Rise of Skywalker. You could tell that the studio is pressuring them to include things or not do things based on fan backlash from Last Jedi. It takes you out of the experience. It takes you out of that universe that the filmmakers are trying to create for you. But no, I don't think. How could it? He's talking about he's going to make a black and white version of it. Is this like something Logan. Well, Logan's a different story. It's a different character.
And I
don't think that DC characters or all comic book characters need to be lighthearted and jokey and funny. I don't, but like they're not dramatic. Like these are ridiculous stories.
Yeah.
They just are. That's what makes them fun. You know, they're larger than life people who exist in a universe that's slightly parallel to our own. You know,
Yeah.
I don't, I don't know. But I am excited to see because this is what the DCU is supposed to be. It was
Yeah.
supposed to be introducing the characters in this movie and then letting them spin off into their own movie. So I'm excited to see that. I'm excited to see the
Yeah.
nightmare sequence. I hope I'm wrong. Wouldn't it be great if I was wrong?
Yeah.
What
I'd
if
be
it's
shocked
good?
if it's amazing.
What if it's really, really good? Wouldn't that be great? What if it was like the Clone Wars series and we were able to watch this and then go back and say, wow, Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones are actually kind of good after watching
Yeah.
Clone Wars. What if we watched this and we went, oh, I get it. I now see
Yeah.
why Superman snapped Zod's neck. I now understand why Batman was using guns and killing because the Justice League, because he was all cynical and the Justice
Yeah.
League made him optimistic again. Like, what if it does that? What if he's actually a genius? I would love that.
Yeah.
But
What if it's amazing?
it's
What
not
if
gonna
it's the
happen,
best
though.
movie of 2021?
Well, the other thing is too is like his Watchmen is a complete total piece of shit. I can't even like that's you can see the seeds of what he did in the DCU with Watchmen, which is like let's take let's take a let's take the comic book and let's replicate some of the frames perfectly in slow motion
Hmm.
and put a pop song behind it. You know, put Leonard Cohen's Hallelujah behind it
Yeah.
and make everything overly dramatic instead of picking up on subtle character nuances. So that's where I'm at with him.
I want to know how much slow-mo is going to be in the Snyder Cut. Like how many
I don't.
per minutes is it going to be? Because like I watched Sucker Punch the other night, like I rewatched it.
Yeah.
Which is Zack Snyder, and I was like, that was just a lot of slow-mo. I was like, this is definitely Zack Snyder.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It worked in 300, because 300 was
Yeah.
on the heels of Sin City, which he didn't work on, but it's another Frank Miller book. So with 300, it was this like hyper reality, like where
Hmm.
the comic book still frames came to life because 300 is a hyper reality comic book. Like no one reads that book and thinks, well, this is what happened. I mean, it's
Yeah.
ridiculous. Leonidas like gets so close to Xerxes he can throw a spear at him. Like there's no way that happened in real life. I haven't seen Sucker Punch, but I've heard the opening of that's great.
The opening's great, and the rest of the movie is okay. Like it's not the best. I watched it when I was like young and it came out, probably too young to see
Mm-hmm.
it, to be allowed to see it. I saw it in theaters, and I was like, this is the best movie ever. Then I rewatched it a couple weeks ago, and I was like, oh, I kind of understand why I liked it as a kid because there's a lot of
Right.
like slow-mo action, like it's weird. Like there's like a lot of these dream sequences where they're fighting like either German steam-powered zombies and orcs. And as a kid, I was like, this is awesome. And then looking back at it, I'm like, oh,
It sounds awesome.
it sounds awesome. It's not like it's like you watch it, this is amazing. But it's not like I don't know how to describe it. It's not the same amazing as when I saw Endgame for the first time.
Sure.
I was like, this is awesome and powerful. Whereas Sucker Punch, I'm like, oh, it's just this fun movie I could watch and eat popcorn too.
Endgame was so earned, though, and that was
Yeah.
it's a Endgame and Infinity War and Civil War. Just hats off to Marcus and McFeely. Those movies are master classes in how not to overstuff a movie, how to have
Yeah.
everything in a movie and have it not feel overstuffed. It still boggles my mind they were able to pull that off.
Endgame will forever be my like best movie theater experience.
Yeah, it was pretty great
I
seeing that in the theater.
I went to a theater. It was like a small sort of theater near the place I was living at when I came out. And I went to it. It was like $10, like cheap tickets, or maybe $8. And I went in, and it was like packed theater, like front to back. And like when that scene comes and the portals come out and he says on your left and Spider-Man comes out, the whole theater just like erupted. People were standing and cheering and like shouting. I was like, this is awesome.
Yeah. Things that probably didn't happen once in any of the Star Wars sequel movies. The my favorite experience like that was actually during Civil War because I live in Queens. So at the airport fight when Cap says, "You got heart, kid. Where are you from?" And he says, "Queens." And Cap says, "Brooklyn." I mean, the theater just erupted.
Yeah,
That was an
I
awesome
imagine.
that and seeing like Avengers here for the first time and being like, "Yeah, I work there." It's like I know
It's
exactly
awesome.
where that is. That's like the Chitauri invaded right over, where I worked. That was amazing. Um, yeah, those movies are great, especially just the Spider-Man movies resonate for New Yorkers a lot. It's pretty
Mhm.
cool. I
I'm
wish I could have seen the first Spider-Man in the city for the first
oh
time.
yeah.
You
I'm
mess with Spidey, you mess with New York.
I'm in Toronto. I'm in Canada.
Oh, cool,
So
awesome.
anytime I see it, we see like like a Canadian place that's either because like a lot of filming happens here that's like trying to be
Yeah,
Shazam was like set in I think was it Seattle or Philadelphia, but it was like filmed
yeah.
all in Toronto. So like when I watched it for the first time, like with my friends, we were all like, "That's," I was like, "That's there. Like we've been there," or like we were watching it in the mall where they do the mall fight scene.
Uh-huh.
So we were like,
And that's your
"That's."
mall.
I'm like, "That's our mall. Like we're in the movie theater in this mall right now." I was like, "We could walk out and go to where
Oh,
that
that's
fight's
so
happening."
weird.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome.
Um, and
Yeah. You gotta
it
love
was
those Canadian tax breaks.
yeah, yeah. It was funny because
Yeah.
like one of my friends like I think they're shooting something at that mall like that lives by us because like I lived near this place. I was like, oh, okay, that's cool. I guess they're filming some movie. And then later there was an interview with one of the actors. I forget which one, and he was like, yeah, our favorite place was filming in that mall. That's like in this small place, like Toronto, Canada. I was like, holy crap, that's what they were filming there. I could have went and saw like I could have tried to like see it. I didn't go.
They filmed Homecoming in my neighborhood.
No, really?
Yeah, that's pretty like my train stop, and I saw them filming it. That's a scene that didn't make it in the movie, but Peter's in the pajamas and he looks inside of a laundromat. Um, yeah, no, I've never even seen that as deleted footage. I think it was literally just Tom Holland in pajamas on the street.
Just just him walking
Yeah.
around. Um, Speaking of Spider-Man, do you have any theories on Spider-Man 3 or
Oh
any
my
thoughts?
god. I mean, all I know are the same rumors everybody else does.
Mhm.
If I'm going to throw out, so okay, so Spider-Man 3 to me is a dangerous movie.
Yeah.
Sight unseen. It's dangerous because I'm afraid it's going to do exactly what I was just saying, which is like make us too aware that we're watching a movie because you can see the corporate strings being pulled.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is like when Spider-Verse, when I first heard it was coming out, I rolled my eyes because I was like, oh, okay. So what Sony's wanted to do for years is have their own Spider-Man universe to rival the Marvel Cinematic Universe. They
Yes.
said, and from a business standpoint, it makes sense. You say we have exclusive screen rights to hundreds of comic book characters that no one else can make movies with. We should do them all. And then
Yeah.
their eyes got too big for their stomach, and they tried to do too much at once. Amazing Spider-Man 2, so it's a stopgap. Loan Spider-Man to Marvel. Um, which was never going to be permanent. So what they really want is for Venom to be in the MCU, and they want Spider-Man to have his own Spider-Verse. So the animated Spider-Verse was priming the pump for that in the public eye, and it
Mhm.
was brilliant and it was great. And Venom made a lot of money, so that means that
Yep.
you're not actually going to see Spider-Man officially in the MCU for a generation at least, unless some other studio buys Sony, because then the rights revert back to Marvel. So what I'm afraid of with Spider-Man 3 is that this is just them laying the groundwork for being able to do that whenever they want. Do you remember what Kevin Feige said when they reached this new deal about Spider-Man?
I can't remember at the top of my head.
So like Sony and Marvel failed to reach an agreement, and then the
Yeah.
fans,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
okay. So
I
after
know that.
that happened, Kevin Feige said, paraphrasing once again,
Mhm.
Spider-Man is an amazing character who has the unique ability to cross different cinematic universes. So I
Okay.
think with their negotiations, the sticking point was probably Sony going, "We want Tom Holland to be in Venom," and Kevin Feige going, "Well, Venom's not in the MCU," which he
Yeah.
should because he had nothing to do with Venom and he's controlling it and it's his baby. And I think in doing that, he said, "Look, Tom Holland's going to be in our stuff and he's going to be in other stuff. It doesn't mean it's the same stuff."
Yeah.
So essentially, then you saw like the Vulture popping up in the Morbius trailer because they're going to
Yeah.
build toward the Sinister Six. And now, if you believe all the rumors, Doctor Strange is going to be somehow introducing all these different multiverse characters
Mhm.
into Spider-Man, people from other movies. So all of a sudden, just like after Spider-Verse, we were open to the idea of different Spider characters. And it's the idea that there's not just one Spider-Man. There's not just like the one idea Spider-Man. That opened us up to the idea. So now maybe they can go back and do an Andrew Garfield or a Tobey Maguire or a live action Spider-Man noir. And the public won't say, oh God, another Spider-Man. Didn't they just do one? Because we'll be excited about the different Spider-Man. Because I think they learned from 2012, which was 5 years after, it was a reboot 5 years after the last franchise ended,
Yeah.
So that's what I'm afraid is going to happen. What I want to have happen, I've tweeted this and I made a video about it. I dearly wish this is what was actually going on, is that Peter Parker's identity's out. From the behind the scenes stuff, it looks like there's like Team Spider-Man and Team Mysterio.
Yeah.
So I don't think this theory is true, but I would love this to be what happens. Okay, this is my pitch for Spider-Man 3.
Okay.
His secret's out, and just like at the end of the first one, and when Aunt May found out, we think it's going to be a big problem. But then in the next movie, she's like, "Hey, I'm just helping you out with your charity work." So secret's out, and we open with Spider-Man fighting Jamie Foxx's Electro and Alfred Molina. And then these different Spider-Men coming in and all this other stuff. It's just crazy. It's like this weird fanfic, almost kind of over the top, too much stuff, bad music, weird camera angle. Like, this doesn't seem like Spider-Man. And then like a light comes into frame and someone yells, "Cut!" And it's because Spider-Man and Peter Parker are now super famous, and Peter Parker has embraced it. And they're doing a film adaptation of Spider-Man, and he's like on set as a consultant.
Oh, that would be perfect.
That's what I wish would happen, because then they could poke fun at themselves like Spider-Verse did. But they're not doing that.
No, they're not.
There's no money in that.
I feel like the amount of fans that'd be like, because if you announce like, if Tobey Maguire was going to be in the MCU as Spider-Man, and then they revealed that he was just an actor number 2, or would
he'd be Tobey Maguire?
Oh, he'd be he's just Tobey Maguire playing Spider-Man in this MCU. I feel like people would get a crack out of it, but people would be like mad because they want him as Spider-Man.
I know. For me, it would be like the Mandarin all over again, which I loved, but I understand pissed off a lot of people. But see, to me, it's the same thing as like, I am positive that that's Matt Damon in Thor Ragnarok, like in Asgard. And I don't mean it's Matt Damon playing a guy in Asgard who's playing Matt Loki. Damon. That's just like Loki got Matt Damon to be in his little play, his little vanity project, and he got Sam Neill and the other Hemsworth to do that for him. That's I don't know if that's canon. I don't think it is, but I dearly hope that's what it is.
Well, that's canon now. We'll make it canon. I would love an extended cut of Venom, and I don't know if anyone else is with me on this, but I would love to see it, because I think Tom Hardy said that they cut like 40 minutes of his favorite scenes from it, and then there's more footage to come on for it. And it was going to be originally R-rated.
I did know that. Yeah, they haven't released an extended cut? I'm shocked to hear that.
No, it's the one thing that I want. And they said that like because I believe the director tweeted out, and I'm paraphrasing, that he said that like Sony wanted him to cut out a lot of scenes and make it more not family friendly, but make it PG, and and changed his vision to it a lot, and they were required to do some reshoots and stuff. But kind of like the Schneider deal, except they weren't as scummy as Warner Brothers were.
Sounds a little bit more like Rogue One.
Yeah,
Gareth Edwards had to go in and retool a bunch of stuff.
So
there's a spectrum, isn't there? On the one end, you have the Snyder cut, and then the other end you have I don't know. That's the thing, is like, you don't notice it when it's done well. There's a lot of movies. All these movies do reshoots. It's just something to do. But like Taika Waititi was talking about Thor Ragnarok's reshoots, and how like when they were shooting the actual movie, very loose, very improvisational, very But when they went back, they know exactly what they need, because they've done the assembly. They know what's missing. It's to a tight schedule, and they don't waste time. Because everybody's got other shit to do. Like Henry Cavill, obviously, the last thing he wanted to do was go back and film Justice League with a different director. But yeah, that's interesting. I would like to see that too. To be honest, I need to watch Venom again, because when I watched it the first time, I didn't want to like it, because I was like, if this movie's a hit, Spider-Man's never going to go back to Marvel.
Yeah.
And I don't think it was a very good movie right up until that symbiote actually took, like, when they started to be that version of Venom, then it took off. I mean, because Tom Hardy has so much chemistry with himself right there.
Yes.
I think as soon as that symbiote said, "On my planet, I'm a loser," it's like, all right,
Yeah.
I'm gonna stop worrying about this and just have some fun.
Have some fun with it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I liked it. I think an extended cut would just bring, I don't know, maybe just bring more.
I would love to see that. I can't believe it doesn't exist. I mean, usually, well, I don't. Sony hasn't really done a lot of extended cuts. They've had deleted scenes released, but I guess that is more of a Warner Brothers thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
A DC thing.
Yeah.
Deadpool, the Fox movies would do. Like, Deadpool had a couple extended cuts that were kind of like comedies. Like American Pie. Those movies would always advertise the uncut version. The unrated.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uncut
Not seen
version,
in
right?
theaters. Can't be shown.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's free money. I don't know why they wouldn't do that, especially now.
Exactly.
They could put that out on any streaming service that they could accept the price from. It wouldn't cost them any money if it's already shot.
Yeah, I love extended cuts.
I think studios also are wary of giving directors too much power.
Yeah.
I think with the Snyder cut, they literally just went, "Oh, this is trending, great. Let him make the movie. It's fine." I don't think they really care. But I think that sometimes with their IP, they don't want. Who directed Venom again? I'm trying to remember.
Hold on.
That's okay. They don't want Venom's director to have ownership over Venom. Does that make sense?
Yeah, they want.
And the way that they, right, which people like to ride Marvel for, it's a cookie cutter system and stuff. But I'm like, is it? Because like there have been far more auteur Marvel films. Like Iron Man 3 was an auteur film. Shane Black wrote and directed that. And it's not an accident that's one of the best ones. The Avengers and Age of Ultron were auteur films written and directed by the same guy.
Yeah.
Who unfortunately it turns out is a piece of shit.
Yeah.
James Gunn is somebody who you can't remove from Guardians of the Galaxy. He is tied to that. And I think other studios are scared of doing that. But Marvel just wants to make good movies with talented people.
Speaking of James Gunn, what do you think about Suicide Squad 2? Because I guess we're talking about studios of controlling. James Gunn tweeted out that they gave him like almost all creative freedom for Suicide Squad 2. And
I think they gave him that freedom because he'd proven himself.
Yeah.
And they were desperate, and they reached and they snatched him up, right after he'd been fired. Yeah, I don't think they would necessarily have allowed James Gunn, who'd only directed Troma and a couple little indie movies, the same carte blanche that Marvel gave him in 2014.
Yeah.
Or 2012, whenever he actually started working on that film. But I think James Gunn has basically said what Suicide Squad is. It's supposed to be about D-list supervillains getting their fucking head blown off.
Yeah.
That's what Suicide Squad is. And it's made me excited because he said that his movie is basically a sequel to the original series, the original comics, which I had a few years ago, but didn't have enough of them to really get into it. Now I'm very excited to go back in DC Universe and read that run.
I'm quite excited for Suicide Squad 2. Suicide Squad 1.
It's gonna be great.
It was a letdown, I think.
That's a cut I would like to see. You talk about director's cuts. They never will, and that's an example of not wanting to give a director too much power. And because the Ayer cut, isn't trending, they're not gonna give him that. But I'm very curious to see like what Joker was cut. I think that after that first trailer was so funny, the Ballroom Blitz trailer, that they definitely said, "Oh, we want to make it funny." I think they got cold feet. I think that they thought they were doing the Dark Knight thing for their universe because the Dark Knight was a hit, and then Marvel did their thing, and they went, "Oh crap!" and they changed horses midstream when they saw that it wasn't necessarily resonating with fans. But see, that's what I mean. As far as like you can see where the corporation and the suits are coming in. The movie, I always say, I should make this into a video. The most important comic book movie of my lifetime of any DC movie is Green Lantern, because Had Green Lantern been a hit, right? So at the time, you were only 2 movies into the Nolan stuff. Those were self-contained. Like Christopher Nolan, could
Yeah.
call his own shots and said, "We're not doing a big, Marvel thing. This is just these, and it's a specific universe where Batman is the only thing that's different from the real world." Had that movie been a hit, Green Lantern would have been the start of a new cinematic universe, but it wasn't. So that's when they brought in Zack Snyder and Christopher Nolan to produce Man of Steel, and they said, "Okay, let's make these dark."
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I never thought of it that way.
Mm-hmm.
How that would be.
I think it's important to do that. Like you can also say, X-Men First Class is a really important movie because that resurrected the X-Men franchise. Like if it weren't for that, First Class is another hybrid that has studio meddling in it because originally, okay, this is a long story, but there was this guy I read this on Ain't It Cool years ago, and it hasn't been verified by any other source.
Okay.
There was a guy who was a producer at Fox president at Fox named Tom Rothman, who then went on to work for Sony and did the bad Spider-Man movies. I think he was president at Sony. He might still be there. Tom Rothman did not like the X-Men franchise. He didn't see how it had legs, and he wanted to end it after 3 movies and then just like do spin-offs and solo movies because like you have a big cast, it's too expensive. And that's ridiculous. If you've read the X-Men comics, there's like hundreds of mutants. That's a franchise that could easily go on forever.
Yes.
Someone ages out or salaries out of the role, you can bring in one of the dozens of people who've led the X-Men, right? But he basically killed the franchise with Last Stand. He brought in Brett Ratner and wouldn't give Bryan Singer what he wanted. So then, boom, franchise killed, and they were going to spin it off into solo films. That's why we had X-Men Origins Wolverine. And then reason they called it X-Men Origins Wolverine is because they were trying to sell this idea of X-Men stories, X-Men spinoff.
Yeah.
So the other one that they were working on developing was a solo movie about Magneto that for whatever reason didn't pan out, but they took the bones of that and it became X-Men First Class. So if First Class, which was a big risk because it took place in the 60s and was just like, is it the same universe? Is it not? It was just a different thing.
Yeah.
If that would have bombed, you're also talking like this is after X-Men Origins Wolverine bombed. They might have just said, okay, we're not doing X-Men movies anymore.
Yeah. I mean,
that might have been that.
It's the problem with studios. It's just if like 1 or 2 executives just don't like an idea, it's just they need to shoot it down. Which is tough.
And they usually don't like it because they're approaching it from a different perspective, from like a film business perspective, and they're not necessarily fans of the books. Maybe they grew up with the original movies. I kind of think the people who produce DC now grew up on the Tim Burton Batman films, and they think that's Batman.
Yeah.
And it's not. I love those movies, but they're not great Batman movies.
They're not thinking. They're thinking more just like profit lines,
which they, hey, they're making money. I mean,
that's their job.
Their job. I don't begrudge them that.
Yeah.
But don't try to like tell me you're making art.
Yeah. It's tough as a director trying to create your vision when you're just getting told like no a bunch of times. Because I saw an interview with Todd Phillips, director of Joker. He's he said we fought over like a year with the studio and the executives to make it R-rated and make it the way we wanted it. And he said the amount of like pushback we got from studios and executives for it. But then the movie comes out and it pans out in its favor. The movie got the most Oscar nominations for that year in 2019.
Which it shouldn't have, but fair play. Yeah.
But fair play to Todd Phillips saying, sticking
sticking to his guns. Yeah. But the thing about Todd Phillips is he didn't need Joker. He already had a very strong career and could have done whatever he wanted. I mean, that's a project that I would like to see more interviews with him where he talks about how that was conceptualized. For like what made him want to do a Joker movie and make it a spin-off of Martin Scorsese's 70s work.
Yeah.
But he already had something in mind for that, and he could have walked away at any point. I think that was the strength that he could approach it with.
Yeah, exactly.
I also think that just with Joker, because Warner Brothers knew and they understood that, okay, look, this isn't the franchise. You know, you're not
Yeah.
putting this Joker inside of your Batman movies. You don't have to worry, you know, about kids not wanting to buy Joker stuff because of this. You know, you're already going to be selling your Joker toys somewhere else. You know.
What do you think about the standalone Batman coming up with Pattinson?
It's going to be great. I love Matt
Yeah.
Reeves. Yeah. Speaking of X-Men.
Yeah, I think it's going to be good.
Just hearing him talk about Batman in DC fandom, you know, like he gets the character in a way that I like I think Tim Burton definitely didn't get, and Joel Schumacher didn't get, and I think Nolan identified. I think Nolan identified with the aspects of Bruce Wayne that he identifies with in all of his character. You know, like every Christopher Nolan lead tends to follow the same template.
Yeah,
and I think there's a reason he chose to do Batman instead of Superman. You know.
Yeah.
He likes the tortured white male with dead parents, trying to right wrongs and avenging. You know, he gave Batman a love interest that he has to avenge. That's not normally something that you see in a Batman film, but it's something you see in every Nolan film, except maybe Tenet, which, believe it or not, I still haven't seen.
You haven't seen Tenet?
I have not watched it yet. I know it's ridiculous.
I watched it in the summer. It's good. It's one of the most, like, I don't know. It's hard to explain. You just have to watch it. It's like a Christopher Nolan, like, just time, mind.
See, I love it. I love time travel movies.
Yeah.
That's why it's a movie I know I'm probably going to enjoy watching.
Though, when I watched it in the theaters, nothing spoiling anything, just the mixing, the audio mixing was, it wasn't just the theater because everyone else was complaining. The audio mixing for the movie was off because there's a lot of dialogue you can't hear them speak, like the background or something is raised too loud. So there's, like, I've seen it twice in theaters, and there's still scenes where I'm like, I don't know what they're saying. Like, not not throughout the entire movie, but there's, like, key scenes where characters are talking, like,
oh, that's too bad. Yeah.
So they got to fix that if they ever release it streaming.
Nolan's obsession with time, I think, you know, maybe he's finally done his masterwork on it. I'm looking forward to watching it.
Nolan's been one to speak out against Warner Brothers, I know, lately.
Well, so is the Dune director. Is it Denis Villeneuve?
Yes.
And they should. Like, I think what they're doing right now is ridiculous, releasing the stuff on the same day. I mean, it makes sense during when you can't release movies in the theater, but, like, they're just so damn greedy.
It makes me so. Actually, it makes
they
me mad.
really are. Like, I have a friend who worked for a merchandising company, and they struck a deal with DC to do, like, novelty DC items. And one of the things they wanted to do was to have mugs that had the superheroes through the ages. So with Superman, you would have, like, the Kurt Swan Superman, you know, from the 50s or 60s. I think, and then the Jerry Siegler, and just along the way, and then have the signatures of those artists beneath them who, you know, originated that look. Neil Adams, Batman, you know, and Warner Brothers completely nixed that idea, and they said, no, we don't. We look at this as just like it's Warner property. And even though these people may have drawn it, they were working for Warner's, and we don't acknowledge them as creators.
Wow.
And that tells you everything you need to know about Warner Brothers. And that's so weird and ironic because DC has always been notoriously, like, a much better comic. I don't know about now, but, like, back in the day, it was just a much easier place to work as a comic book artist than Marvel was. Like, Marvel seemed to be very dysfunctional in the 70s and 80s. 90s, whereas DC just ran like a really well-oiled machine. I don't know, maybe because they had that corporate ownership for so long, and maybe, you know, Marvel's fixed their issues since Disney bought them out. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
And he has other stories like that too that he shared, but that was the one that always sticks out to me as far as, like, how Warner Brothers views these as commodities and not treasured mythological icon. You know?
Yeah. The HBO Max Warner Brothers deal, that just I don't know, it rubs me the wrong way, just because, like, I'm so for going to the theater, and I understand now with the pandemic that it is a smart business strategy to have it on a streaming service for people to watch. But just listening to Nolan say like they didn't tell any of us that our movies weren't going to the theaters anymore. They were very like unclear of what's happening. Just it rubbed me the wrong way.
But there it is. That's the exact same attitude. That is Warner Brothers saying, these aren't your movies. The voice of the artist isn't counted.
Yeah.
It is a business decision for a product that we have paid you to make. That is how they view it. And maybe that's how, maybe that's how Disney views Marvel and DC, or sorry, Marvel and Star Wars. And they're just a little better at hiding it, than say Marvel is. Or maybe with Marvel, because it was a self-contained entity that they bought that was already running, they were able to just say, keep doing what you're doing, keep printing money. Maybe if they would have done this, if Disney would have bought Marvel and started the MCU from scratch, it might have looked more of like a Frankenstein's monster hodgepodge of whatever a random executive thought.
Yeah.
But luckily, that's, except for a few speed bumps in phase 1 and 2, that's not what's happened.
It seems like they kind of care about the franchise now. Like they care about it.
Yeah.
And they want.
Well, Feige does for sure. Yeah.
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah. He even gave notes on he gave Sony notes on the screenplay to Amazing Spider-Man 2. He wasn't getting paid to. He just got his hands on it, and just as a fan. When it was in his interest not to do that, And of course, they didn't follow anything he said. If you believe this, I mean, this was one of the Sony email leaks. A lot of those were fake too. So like, should probably check and see if that's real. Walk around saying that. I'm pretty sure that one was real though.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast, Ryan. It's been a great pleasure talking to you.
Yeah, it was fun. Thank you.
Do you want to say any of your social media links of where people can find you?
Sure. Twitter, I'm on @Ryan Arey, RyanArey, and Screen Crush YouTube channel. Just search YouTube Screen Crush and you'll see my face. And there I am.
Thank you so much, Ryan. And everybody else, have a great night.